welcome to Scale Car Garage. And, well, an interesting episode. A fun with figures episode. Sometimes you just grab a cup of tea, feel like doing something other than building cars, perhaps, and maybe working on some scenery, something to augment the scenery, which figures do. I guess it figures. Okay, sorry. How about I show you a couple of the things that I've been working on here at Scale Car Garage. Now, I know we have a lot going on in the workshop here, and I'm sure you're the same way. You go from project to project, and sometimes you just want to follow your muse. And that's why I have labeled containers like this, and definitely these are figures to finish, and I always have figures to finish, but I really enjoy not only creating figures, casting them, and then doing things with them, but also painting them, detailing them. It's always fun, and I always have something that I can just pull out of a box like this, for example, and continue to work on, because, well, you either have to wait for paint to dry, or you want to move on to something else. That happens. Let me just put this down here for a moment. Okay, and so here are some figures that aren't completed yet, but a lot of them are, well, mashups. I not all casting or all casts come out perfectly, so you take bits and parts and stuff. For example, this gentleman, he started off as a driver, and I don't think the head turned out really well, so I had a spare head and I put that on, and as you can see, I detailed him. And then there are mashups like this figure, which I really like. It's a vintage Aurora body with the head from the female figure from the 1956 Continental Mark II. And again, I mashed them up, and this one I actually made molds of, and I have a lot of them. And I'm always working on something like that. And then I actually did one of my own. This is my version of Colin Chapman. He stands quite well, actually. That's about as good a Chapman as I could get. And there are various other figures in here that are a lot of fun to do. However, what's really, really neat is to create figures that are unique, that no one else has. And it's really not as difficult as it sounds. So I started with, well, let me take you through the process I used to create some figures that I don't think anyone else has, and I think will look really great around our track. For the driver figures, I used a monogram driver that I had molded and cast. I'm sure that you recognize it. First, I removed the heads of the figures and kept them for future use. Then I removed the arms from the figures. I rummaged through my body parts box and found arms that not only fit, but were also expressive. With the bodies primed, it was time to work on the drivers' heads. I chose heads created by Immense Miniatures that I primed and detailed. The drivers that I chose to model were Jim Clark, Jackie Stewart, Jack Brabham, Graham Hill, and Dan Gurney. The heads were attached to the drivers' bodies, and the bodies were detailed. Here they are, ready to be placed around our track. Jim Clark, Graham Hill, Jackie Stewart, Jack Brabham, and Dan Gurney. So I hope that explains maybe perhaps briefly, how I created those figures and how they turned out. Again, it just takes a little bit of imagination to create some really interesting figures. And the heads from Immense Miniatures are just absolutely wonderful. And here are the figures. In no particular order. You see over here we have, I'm going from left to right. So let's go from left to right. We have Dan Gurney. I'm going to gotta put my glasses on here. Let's try it again. Left to right. We have Dan Gurney, who, now Dan's body is actually the stock monogram driver body with the hands like that. I left one stock. And you know what? Dan was a very sort of, low-key. No, it wasn't very brash. He would listen more than he would talk. And I think that's a great pose for the figure. Next to Dan, of course, Jim Clark, who I think turned out so well. Next to Jim Clark is Graham Hill. Next to Graham is Jack Brabham. And next to Jack, Jackie Stewart. And I really like Jackie's sort of stance, if you will, because Mr. Stewart, even now, has a tendency to be very demonstrative in his explanations. The other thing I thought that would be really cool, they're all wearing their blue Dunlop driving overalls, which is kind of circa 1965, because all 5 drivers were Formula One drivers in 1965. In fact, it was Jackie Stewart's first year as a full-time Formula One driver. So I thought, there's an era here, a time and a place. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be great just to take these figures and, well, maybe bring them to life.
Enrico. Racing Piston Rings. Staying around to get you around. Presents the Easter Weekend Review. 1965. Kits Spa. What a track. What an event. What cars. Sports racers. GT. And Formula One. With top drivers vying to be the master of this wonderful circuit. Like Jim Clark, Graham Hill, Jackie Stewart, and Dan Gurney. Just to name a few. The sports car races saw amateur and professional racing side by side, with some surprise winners, like Vicki Williams, who drove her TR4 to victory in the Easter Weekend Scrambled Egg Support Race. The GT race that weekend saw a great duel and some real excitement when the Ferrari GTO, owned by Giovanni Panini and driven by Lance Steplight, went off-piste on lap 3.
There has been an incident on track. Number 32 Ferrari has had an incident coming out of the tunnel.
We understand that something has happened on track. Our chopper has gone to the scene of the crash.
This might take some time to clear. Let's hope everyone is okay down there.
No photos! No photos, please! No photos!
Hey, I'm a racing driver. It's what I do. The GTO is a 3-year-old car. I had to be aggressive. Geez, it's not like the car is worth anything.
Thankfully, the car is okay, no real damage. A couple of injuries that I have to cover the medical bills for. But I have to tell you that No Talent, Pasta for Brains, Playboy, who was behind the wheel, is paying for the repairs, one way or another.
This race was won by Dan Gurney, driving a 289 Cobra. that Ken Miles drove at Sebring in 1963. Take note, Lance.
I really enjoyed that race. The car was flawless, and with Lance going off the track so early, it really cleared the way for me to gain a significant lead. As far as the Formula One race, well, there's Jim Clark, and then there's the rest of us.
The feature was a non-championship race for Formula One cars that saw a great battle between John Surtees in his Ferrari 158 and the eventual winner, Jim Clark, in his Lotus 33. Dan Gurney said it best when he stated, "Well, there's Jim Clark, and then there's the rest of us." The spectators in attendance witnessed a great weekend of great racing. No doubt in part due to the wide use of Enrico Racing piston rings. Enrico Racing piston rings, made with precision to provide more power and durability for your racing engine. Available at fine automotive parts dealers everywhere.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly had fun putting it together. It's wonderful. You can actually kind of bring these guys to life, which it brings up the fact, model railroaders have, wonderful animated scenes on their layouts. Maybe it's time to think about how to do that for ours. There must be a way. But maybe we'll leave that for another time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this quick little Fun with Figures episode. I hope you enjoyed the little fun I had bringing these things to life. And I really, really want to thank you for joining me here at Scale Car Garage.
I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe.